Have you ever been in your local bookstore, excited to pick up the new rendition of your favorite series, The Adventures of the Naughty Fairies by Sarah Douglas Armentrout, and you're super excited to read it, and as you go over to the fantasy section to pick it up, you can't help but notice a dark figure in the corner, seemingly nestled there like a statue, carefully watching you from the shadows. You proceed to pick up the book and head down towards the cashier, but then the figure suddenly moves, coming closer. You hold your breath and wait, and when the figure finally reaches you, they say, "I only read non-fiction. I don't have time for things that aren't real." And then you awkwardly proceed towards the cashier. But the figure still keeps following you. "Hey," they shout. "Didn't you hear me? I only read non-fiction." And then you make eye contact with the cashier, noticing she's also avoiding eye contact with the figure as well. You just want to check out, go home and read your book in peace, but this figure just won't leave you alone. "Hey," they keep shouting, "I only read non-fiction." And essentially, the Secret Service comes, notified from the panic button the cashier triggered. An entire SWAT team collectively pins this guy down as you sprint away from the bookstore in terror. But you can feel the figure's eyes are still on you as you run away. They keep looking at you, shouting, "You will all see one day. One day, why non-fiction is inherently superior to fiction." Okay, maybe that last part is a stretch, but I'm sure that everyone has someone like this in their life, or maybe you yourself are under the same train of thought. So here, I'm not talking about someone who simply prefers reading nonfiction over fiction. I am talking about someone who genuinely believes that nonfiction books are the only real books out there. Anything fictional for them not only doesn't offer any useful information that can be useful in the so-called real world, it is also a complete waste of time. And this sentiment can be applied not only in the realm of books, but also other media as well. There will at least be one person that you know of that has told you they don't have time for movies and TV shows, and so they only watch documentaries. So in this video, I will finally end this age-long argument of which type of media is inherently superior, fiction or nonfiction. And the answer is, drumroll, neither. I could use this video, like a lot of people have done, to bash nonfiction and nonfiction readers, because honestly, there are so many nonfiction books out there to bash. But I can't deny that I am also an avid reader of nonfiction books, with the subgenre of nonfiction books that I read the most being, I know you guys are gonna laugh, but self-help. I'm personally really comforted by a complete stranger telling me over and over again in the span of 300 pages that my life can still be salvaged. So back to the original question, why is nonfiction not better than fiction, or vice versa? I feel like people who honestly divide these two types of media fail to mention, because I'm assuming they don't know, that both of these types of media offer their unique benefits. Benefits of reading fiction. Fiction allows readers to navigate complex moral dilemmas, ambiguous situations, and multiple perspectives, strengthening their ability to analyze and critically assess real-world issues. A study published in ERIC discusses how fiction can be integrated into educational settings to improve critical thinking, offering instructional models for implementation. Another study from Oxford Academic highlights how reading fiction exposes individuals to nuanced decision-making processes, thereby enhancing logical reasoning and analytical thinking. Engaging with fictional narratives also allows readers to experience diverse perspectives, deepening their understanding of human emotions, social dynamics, and ethical considerations. This process, known as narrative empathy, suggests that fiction readers exhibit heightened empathy, social awareness, and emotional intelligence. There is a reason why storytelling has existed since the dawn of time. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, when an ancient village gathers around a bonfire, and when the village shaman or chief steps forward, they don't talk about how to flirt with the women. They instead tell stories bathed in rich lore, narratives that even the youngest child or the most wizened elder could understand and relate to. So fiction is not something recently created for mindless entertainment. While it can be used in that way, historically, stories have always been a fundamental way humans process emotions, societal norms, and morality. A lot of folktales and local lore eventually gave rise to many cultures and religions. Some would argue to say that even religion is inherently But the benefits of reading fiction aren't narrowed down to increasing critical thinking and empathy. Regular reading, especially fiction, has been associated with slower cognitive decline and an increased lifespan. A Yale University study found that individuals who read books for at least 30 minutes daily had a 20% reduction in mortality risk compared to non-readers. Fiction also serves as a powerful stress reduction tool, providing escapism and emotional relief. A study found that reading fiction lowers stress levels more effectively than other relaxation techniques, such as listening to music or taking a walk. I unbuttoned the rest of his jacket, fingers shaking, and peeled it from him, along with his shirt and his pants. Then he was standing naked before me, wings slightly flared, muscled chest heaving, showing me the full evidence of just how ready he was. Do you want to begin at the wall or finish there? Oh, sorry about that, guys. I was just taking a little moment to relax. Now that I've given you a bunch of benefits related with reading fiction, now it's time to discuss some of the benefits with reading nonfiction. Nonfiction books provide practical knowledge, allowing readers to apply insights directly to real-life situations. This includes personal finance, business strategies, health advice, and historical case studies that can improve decision-making. A study published in Thinking and Reasoning found that exposure to real-world examples in nonfiction improves problem-solving ability by allowing individuals to recognize patterns and apply and learn strategies in daily life. Reading nonfiction, especially in specialized fields, helps professionals stay updated on new developments, industry trends, and best practices, enhancing career growth and academic performance. And this is a really crucial point because I would never have read Cracking the Coding interview, even if they held me at gunpoint. A study in Educational Psychology Review found that exposure to expository texts such as textbooks, biographies, and business books significantly improves domain-specific expertise and knowledge retention. A study in the Journal of Positive Psychology in 2018 found that reading nonfiction books related to self-improvement and psychology increased goal-setting behavior, motivation, and self-efficacy among readers. See? You guys think it's cringe, but I've proved it through research that it makes me feel better. In addition to both their specialized benefits, both reading fiction and nonfiction really help us enlarge our vocabularies, and consuming a long-form content from any book improves our focus and concentration, as reading demands sustained attention, which can enhance one's ability to focus and concentrate over extended periods. Especially in this day and age of 15-second TikTok clips and Instagram reels that fry our dopamine receptors harder than overcooked McDonald's fries, there is value to be able to focus and concentrate over long periods of time and being able to consume long-form content. So, as I've just stated before, if both reading fiction and nonfiction offer unique, awesome benefits, what is really the reason for all this tension? To be honest, I am just personally glad that nowadays, with our attention spans being shorter than the time it takes a fruit fly to ejaculate, that we're still picking up and reading any sort of book, fiction or nonfiction. However, the debate of nonfiction being inherently superior to fiction doesn't seem to go away, and I was really intrigued why people feel this way. I did my own research. And here's what I found. The tendency for some individuals to prioritize nonfiction over fiction can be attributed to several factors: perceived practicality and educational value. Nonfiction is often viewed as a direct source of factual information and practical knowledge, leading readers to believe it offers more tangible benefits. Cultural and educational biases. Historically, there has been a bias, especially in Western culture, against fiction, stemming from the perception that it represents untruths. So cultural and educational biases, as well as the long-standing prejudice, may influence individuals to favor nonfiction. A lot of people will say that reading something like, the Harry Potter series or Dune is a complete waste of time because they're fictional, and then they proceed to recommend you one of the most fictional books that have ever existed out there. Gender norms and societal expectations. Societal norms, particularly among men, may discourage the reading of fiction due to perceptions of it being less pragmatic. This avoidance can result in missing out on the moral and emotional lessons that fiction uniquely imparts. And I think this point is illustrated perfectly by what the Turkish-British author Elif Shafak states in one of her interviews with Simi Can in connection with the Louisiana Literature Festival.
I always feel sad when people say to me, and usually it's some male readers in positions of power, they say, I don't have time for fiction, I read important stuff. And that sounds like I don't have time for emotions, I don't have time for empathy, I don't have time for the heart. There isn't a single person in this world who doesn't need the heart, the emotions or empathy.
While, as Shafak states, we assume that this is something often men do, plenty of women find themselves expressing similar sentiments. American journalist and author Celeste Headley states in her book, Do Nothing, that she also used to be one of those people who thought that she was too busy and did not have time for any sort of books, fiction or nonfiction. And while doing research for this video, this tension between fiction readers and nonfiction readers reminded me of an age-old debate. The debate of fiction versus nonfiction has the same talking points and arguments of the age-old arts versus sciences debate, but fiction representing the arts and nonfiction representing the sciences. And this debate, similar to the fiction versus nonfiction debate, centers on what is more valuable to society. STEM fields are seen as practical, logical, and essential to the advancements in medicine, technology, infrastructure, and the economy, while arts and humanities are seen as more subjective, focused on creativity, self-expression, and understanding human experience, culture, and ethics. A lot of people argue that STEM fields directly impact our quality of life through technological innovation, medical advancements, problem solving. And hey, this is by no means of me saying that doctors and engineers are useless and we don't need them. I do not think that. I do not want an art major taking my temperature when I feel sick. We still need doctors, we still need engineers. My point is not about bashing one field and promoting the other. But people who favor STEM fields also more often believe that these fields are more rigorous or have tangible results, with the tangible results being vaccines, smartphones, transportation, the Tesla Cybertruck, the pinnacle of transportation technology. There is also a perception that STEM careers offer higher economic returns, which leads to some to view them as more serious or worthy. It is also important to note that often more men work in STEM fields, so gender norms play an important part in why we see STEM fields and the sciences as more serious and more worthy, while humanities and the arts are often dismissed. This is why you will often find beneath a post of a young girl struggling to get a job in the currently frozen job market while having a job in McDonald's to make income on the side, that this is simply what happens when one chooses to study something so worthless like liberal arts or gender studies. But often these demeaning and overtly mean comments are walls to hide behind the fact that the person writing them probably studied a STEM field like engineering or computer science and still works at the same McDonald's. As someone in the field of tech, a version of the same argument also happens within the community of developers. So in the world of development and software engineering, there are a number of jobs that you can work in, with the most common ones being a front-end developer, a back-end developer, or a full-stack developer. So I will get a little technical, but bear with me, you will understand my point. Front-end development refers to everything a user sees and interacts with on a website or application. It's about designing the layout, colors, fonts, buttons, menus, and other visual elements. When you click a button, scroll through a page, or watch an animation on a site, that's all made possible through front-end technologies. Developers in this area work with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, or frameworks like React, Vue, and TypeScript to create smooth, user-friendly interfaces. Essentially, front-end development is responsible for how a site looks and feels. Back-end development, on the other hand, is what happens behind the scenes. It's like the engine of a car. Users don't see it, but it powers everything. The back-end handles how data is stored, retrieved, and processed. It involves setting up databases, writing server-side code, and managing APIs. While the front end makes a website look good, the backend makes sure it actually works. And this might lead you to the question, what does a full stack developer do? Exactly what you assume. Full stack development combines both front end and back end work. Okay, I know I've lost a lot of you guys in this technical mumbo jumbo, but I'm getting to my point. I promise. So in my previous jobs, I used to work as a full stack developer, but mostly my specialties lie in front end. Because I'm a girl and I like making pretty websites where the buttons and the colors look pretty. I like it, okay? I like having instant visual feedback. I'm sorry that I don't like spending hours and hours coding tokens and writing CRUD code and setting up databases. It's boring. And as I was starting to get into the tech space, because of my education and my employment, I started following accounts and pages on social media that made tech content. And something seemed to be pretty clear in this space. Most developers bash UX UI designers for their artsy layouts, making it look like their job is so easy and unserious and not worthwhile compared to a developer. And needless to say, the person Implementing the design of a UX UI designer is usually a front-end developer, but it gets even better. And then there will be posts making fun of front-end developers for the fact that their skill set is more about cultivating aesthetics, meaning it must be inherently so much easier than the job of a back-end developer who more so focuses on functionality. So any relation you have to anything artsy, even in a profession as technical as software engineering, you still can't escape the judgment of those who call it easy, useless, or worthless, very similar to the adjectives used to describe arts and humanities fields compared to STEM fields, or reading fiction compared to nonfiction. Your proximity to anything relating to art and creativity instantly makes you lose worth and credibility. But why? Why do people view anything that is close to art that isn't just focused on numbers and precision, but on creativity, self-expression, and an understanding of the human experience as inherently worthless? This belief has deep cultural, historical, and economic roots. In many societies, especially since the Industrial Revolution, there has been a heavy emphasis on productivity, efficiency, and quantifiable results. Fields like engineering, math, and the sciences became tied to tangible progress. Because these fields are often measurable and visibly useful, they've been seen as more serious or legitimate. In her book, Do Nothing, Celeste Headley explores how the Industrial Revolution fundamentally reshaped our relationship with time, productivity, and self-worth. Before this period, people's lives were more aligned with natural rhythms, seasons, daylight, or community needs. But once factories and machines entered the picture, with the invention of the steam engine, everything started to revolve around efficiency, output, and the clock. Time became money, productivity became virtue, and people started being valued not for who they were or what they created in a holistic sense, but for how much they could produce and how efficiently they could do it. This shift didn't just affect how we work, it also bled into how we view worth and success. In an economy that idolizes productivity and measurable results, anything that doesn't fit into that model, like art, philosophy, storytelling, and emotional expression, gets labeled as unproductive or indulgent. It's not because these things aren't valuable, but because they don't generate clear-cut output that can be quantified or monetized easily. In contrast to STEM fields, art and the humanities deal with the intangible: emotions, identity, meaning, and human connection. These are harder to measure or monetize, which can make it seem soft or frivolous in a world that prioritizes profits and performance metrics. And this mindset is often reinforced in education and in the job market, where STEM careers are often better funded, more promoted, and considered more practical. There is also this tendency to confuse something being hard to define with being less rigorous. People assume that because creativity isn't based on formulas or binary logic, it must be easy and subjective. But this sentiment overlooks the fact that great art, literature, design, or storytelling takes discipline, deep critical thinking, and years of refinement, just like any scientific field. When you see these ancient stones sculpted to perfection, or even a figure's veins can be protruding from the stone, where the sculptor has perfectly shaped and sculpted the clothing on these figures, do you really think that sculpting a freaking stone, a slab of marble, to perfection doesn't take years, probably a lifetime of practice? But you don't need to be a Renaissance sculptor to be respected. In the very well-renowned animation studio, Studio Ghibli, or Ghibli, everything is hand-drawn. And certain scenes, even if they're 5 seconds long, can take from months to years to complete. How can you say that this is easy, that this doesn't take practice? But I think what is more ironic here is that everyone consumes and relies on the arts constantly, through music, through film, through books, through design. But the people who create those things are often undervalued. I know a lot of people personally who are in very technical fields, but when they get even a minute of free time, they read, they paint, they build models, they do anything that involves creativity or self-expression. Similarly, Hadley argues in her book that this obsession with constant productivity has actually made us less happy, less connected, and more burnt out, and that reclaiming things like creativity, rest, and unstructured time is essential not just for our well-being, but for our humanity. Art and human-centered disciplines are not just valuable, they're vital. In the words of one of the most pioneering engineers and innovators in history, Nikola Tesla, his approach and process of invention was incredibly imaginative. Many of his inventions started as visualizations in his mind before he ever built them. In his autobiography, My Inventions, in chapter 5, titled The Process of Invention, Tesla describes his unique approach to developing new ideas. My method is different. I do not rush into actual work. When I get a new idea, I start at once building it up in my imagination and make improvements and operate the device in my mind. This is pure creative thinking. Tesla was essentially visualizing a prototype like an artist, finding it in his head before engineering it into reality. Tesla was an artist in his own right. Even people we as a society look up to, like businessmen, scientists, and inventors, often quote artists and philosophers, attributing their thinking and processes to their success. Humanities fields like history, philosophy, literature teach critical thinking, ethical reasoning, and help us reflect on the consequences of science and technology. I hope some of these AI companies get a grip and stop this ungodly technology that is churning up the soulless Studio Ghibli style. Oh, excuse me, I just had a physical reaction to calling these things illustrations. It's a stretch to call them illustrations. I'll call them a derivative AI slop that has been trained on data that they shouldn't have access to. Creativity in STEM fields is often inspired or enhanced by artistic thinking. So where does this whole discussion of arts and sciences bring us in the discussion or the debate of reading fiction versus nonfiction? As I've stated before, I'm glad that nowadays, with the infinite distractions and iPad babies, I'm still grateful that people are actually picking up and reading any books at all. All I care about is that as a society, we let go of this notion that anything creative is worthless and is a waste of time. Works like 1984, Dune, and The Handmaid's Tale aren't a waste of time. Hell, A Court of Fairies and Schlongs isn't even a waste of time, because they're a good time. Having some downtime while you watch something fun as you paint after your grueling 9 to 5 instead of grinding at your side hustle is not indulgence. Listening to music on your commute to your shift instead of listening to Andrew Huberman and productivity podcasts does not make you a lazy, worthless human being. Because of the previous videos I made about The Handmaid's Tale, people have been up in my comments saying that, I don't value traditionalism, that I'm not traditional, I've been brainwashed by the idea of feminism. My friends, what is more traditional than this? Art, wanting to express yourself as well as understand other people's experiences, cultures, and emotions are core parts of our humanity, and we've been doing it since the dawn of time. Embracing stories are literally embracing traditions. This core part of our humanity should not be dismissed, undervalued, or seen as a waste of time. Again, I am not dismissing the importance of STEM fields. Personally, I love my vehicle that has 4 tires that takes me to places. I love having a microwave. I love having medicine so that I don't die of a random UTI like people did back in the golden days. So I am on the side of progress. I am of STEM and rigorous academic research and engineering. I'm not saying that these fields are inherently soulless, but I think we need a better balance. I think we can all agree that without self-expression or creativity, a life that is only consisting of numbers, precision, efficiency, and output is not only dull, but also very suffocating. So next time you're at a bookstore, there to pick up your next favorite read, and you see a shady figure following you, telling you that you're wasting your time, that fiction is inherently worthless, know that this person probably had a spark of creativity in them in their youth or childhood that was inevitably snuffed out by either their parents, their school, their work, or their surrounding environment as they grew up. They were told that they can't go to art school. They need to become a doctor or an engineer to become a member of an actually useful profession. All of us are conditioned to feel that our self-worth is equal to our productivity, efficiency, and the tangible results we can produce. So these people stubbornly saying that nonfiction is better is not off the mark, because in a society that values efficiency, one has to be in a constant state of bettering themselves, seeing themselves as a project as a whole that is never ever complete. But for our wounded brethren that have the creativity and empathy beaten out of them, we can still hold out a helping hand and tell them, it's okay, no one is here, you needn't be so serious. I want you to have this. And then you hand them a copy of a court of thorns and roses. So next time someone tells you that fiction is a waste of time, just remember this. Fiction isn't made up, it's a mirror. It gives us the language to process pain, imagination to dream beyond reality, and empathy to understand lives we'll never live. It's not just a distraction from the real world, it's how we make sense of it. Stories aren't useless, they're how we stay human. Thank you for watching this video till the end. Hopefully some nonfiction defenders will stumble across this video, and hopefully their perspectives about reading fiction will be shifted. As you might have noticed, I'm not in my humble abode. I am traveling. I'm currently in the motherland. Things are a bit rocky in the motherland right now. A lot of people feel pretty stressed out. So you know what? I need some good old fiction to escape this godforsaken country. So I felt every inch of him. Every place where we joined. I tipped my head back again, a moan slipping out of me. Every time he gritted out. Every time you feel exquisite.